Welcome to Deep Look, Ultiworld's weekly radio show about the current state of Ultimate. It is Wednesday, January 25th. I'm Charlie Eisenhood, joined, as always, by Keith Rayner. And we are in the college season. It is happening. It is starting. We are going to get you ready to go for the 2023 college regular season. Officially started January 1st. We actually have a tournament or two to talk about today that already happened. We got a couple coming up. I'm flying out to California for the Santa Barbara Invite. Cannot wait. But Keith, before we get into any of that, I need to settle up a bet.
Oh, I like the sound of that.
Yes. So, Ohio State made a bet with me last year. And for the life of me, I can't remember exactly what the bet was, but I lost the bet. I do know that I lost the bet. It had something to do with OSU making nationals or, winning games at nationals or something along those lines. And credit to them. They got the dub. I've searched my email and my Twitter DMs, and I simply cannot find the thing, but it's fine. As a result of the bet, it was going to be a TBD purchase that either myself or OSU would have to make. It was a reasonable limit. It was $30 limit or something like that. And what they have selected for me to purchase is the Curl Box. This is a subscription hair care, curly hair company, which is important for me. Very important that I have access to this kind of option. So what we have here, we have the Everyday Shea Body Wash. Very nice.
This is not sponsored, folks. This
is the Glossifier. So this soothes an itchy scalp. Got a little menthol in it. Okay. We have the curl conditioner. I'm going to be using that on a regular basis. And we have the hydrating co-wash cleansing conditioner. This is Gabrielle Union's brand. Okay. And then some kind of little serum here. Scalp therapy guy, couple little bonuses. So Curl Box locked in. The good news, Keith, you need this even less than I do. The good news is that my wife does have curly hair. So she has already been using some of these products, which is great for her. So it works out great. Thank you, OSU. Good luck in 2023. And if you want to make bets with me, DM me, hit me up on the Discord, email me, charlie@ultiworld.com, because I'm always open to some preseason bets.
And then when you win the bet, reply to the original email so it goes back in Charlie's inbox or whatever, so he can find it. But it seems like it would have made more sense for you to buy the Curl Box for them rather than yourself. I mean, really, you're just ended up with a nice gift for your partner. So, it's really working out for you.
It works out great.
Considered.
Yeah, it's not something I would buy. It's like a subscription box, so I had to be careful that I didn't get multiple Curl Boxes.
I don't know if we're going to need those. Miles has definitely his mom's hair. He has a little bit of curl, but mostly it's pretty straight. He has more hair than I do. He has hair that goes past his down in his neckline. He has very long hair for a kid his age. And sometimes people are confused about whether or not it's his boy or girl, because I guess his hair's so long. But I don't know. My hair is very curly, so I would use that in my younger days, but not these days.
I had some wave to my hair in high school. I suppose I still do if I was to grow it out long enough, but be looking a little bit too much like my dad if I did that.
Yeah, I don't think either of us are going to be growing our hair back out anytime soon. Sticking with the shaving, which is a scam all its own. Speaking of monthly subscriptions, man, razors are a big scam.
I get the monster packs at Costco. That's my
I try and buy my stuff in the biggest bulk as possible. But I mean, I guess by scam I mean profitable business model.
It's like printer ink. It's we'll give you a razor for free, and then
I'm pretty sure when I was taking marketing courses, this was the forerunner of that model. Razors were the original buy the thing, and then and then you have to you pay all the money for the supplies for the thing.
Right.
Yeah, the Razors were the original one, if I'm not mistaken. Somebody can correct me.
Smart business for sure. So college preview show. Here's what's going to go down. We're going to talk about the top storylines of the year. And then we're going to talk to Henry Ing, 5th year at Pittsburgh. I would say, Keith, front runner for player of the year coming into the year. I mean, I think he's got to be the number one guy that you look at based on the way he played last year, his role in the club season, U24s, etc.
Yeah, I've been waving the Henry Ing flag heavy. So glad to have him on the show. And hopefully that sends some good vibes his way so that he can have a great season.
And then we will get into some discussion of tournaments, both past and upcoming. And we will begin our picks competition for the 2023 season. Got some changes to get to. That'll be up after the interview. Don't forget to check out our sub bonus out the back. For any subscribers, you can go to ultiworld.com/subscribe to get your subscription today. It's a perfect time to buy. And in our sub bonus, we're going to be doing the 2-minute drill for each region. So we're going to break down every single region, take a look at the teams we expect to make the national championships, and we will go through all 10 regions, both D1 men's and women's.
And even outside of college, there's been news, big news in the semi-pro arena thus far, especially out of the Western Ultimate League. We're not covering that today, but a new episode of our podcast, Double Overtime, just dropped with Jenna Weiner and Sasha Vogel. So if you're looking for more coverage of the Western Ultimate League and Premier Ultimate League, that is the spot to go to, because they're breaking down some pretty big moves in both leagues. Really, there's definitely been news,
big roster moves happening in WL, and we should have a schedule very soon. So let's get into it. Top storylines. Let's begin in the men's division. And Keith, I think we got to start with, can UNC do it again? This has been the dominant program of the last 5 years. They're coming off back-to-back national champions. And they will certainly be, they come into the season ranked number 1. Whether that position is as established as it's felt like the last 2 years, that's more of a question. But this team still has the opportunity to continue a dynasty and make it 3 straight.
Charlie, it's good that you clarified which division we're starting in, because in our show notes, the beginnings of the notes, the top storylines for each division are identical. Just a quick, control C, control V in the show notes. But UNC repeat is definitely on the docket. I mean, we had a bit of a discussion about whether or not they should be the number 1 team in the power rankings coming into the season. Obviously, you lose a player like Liam Charles-Bowes and some of the other top players that they lost. That could be a ding. But look, North Carolina has more than showed over the years that they could handle losing the best player in the country, or near that, however you want to slice it, and multiple elite level players. I mean, the recruiting maybe isn't quite as boisterous as it was. Like it's hard to line up with recruiting someone like Liam Charles-Bowes, but Josh Singleton, one of the best rookies in the country last year. So they still have good talent coming in. Like, and they return. They had the breakout player of the year last year, Rutledge Smith. Josh Singleton was a runner-up for rookie of the year. So there's plenty of left in the cupboard for UNC, and the strength of the program is just basically unmatched. A 3-peat seems real hard. I mean, it's just like it just seems really difficult, and the field seems pretty strong this year. But you can't rule it out, and it's really got to be the starting point based on what we've seen for the past 5 seasons.
They got the most U24 players in the division, 5, all playing on the men's team for the U24 national team. I mean, the team. It's funny because they're so deep, and the coaching development is so good. We talk about their stars, right? Like it's been LSB, and we had Gooch, and then these other guys are just getting really good. And because of the role that they play, you may not talk about them as much, but now those are going to be the guys that we talk about as some of the best players in the division. And I think the U24 results show you that. Now, you can make some arguments about, well, there's like systematically, those players are well positioned to make a U24 team because They play in a system where they feel really comfortable, like playing their role, blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, you don't make that team unless you're really talented, and they got 5 players on that team. So I don't see how you can't look at this team as the favorite. Of course, I've already talked about this. I'm picking Colorado to win, and that's clearly the number 1 challenger. That's the heavyweight fight that we could get at multiple points this season, and certainly could imagine that being the national championship game. You've got a lot of those players on Colorado having come off of winning with Johnny Bravo, having come off of being put into big roles in both the college and club divisions. And, they made it far at nationals last year, take the loss. Can they deal with the loss of Alex Atkins? That's, of course, going to be a big question mark. But, UNC is going through a similar thing with LSB. So I think, that feels comparable. The depth of Colorado is probably about as good as UNC's. And I would argue that their top end talent is probably a little bit better. And so I think it's going to be a fascinating conversation. Who's going to come out at the end of the regular season with the 1 seed potentially. I mean, I think that those are the teams that are most likely to come away with the 1 seed. If, just starting from where we stand here at the beginning of the year.
Yeah. I mean, even before the club season, you probably could have arrived at this point just from looking at what they did last year and who they return. But after the club season, after seeing the way their top players are performing in other areas, it's easy to see why this Colorado team is so lauded. They've had a lot of success as of late, and they returned some really top level players. I think there's going to be a lot of attention on Danny Landisman and Calvin Stoughton, but this is going to be a deep team too. I mean, they're going to have players up and down the roster that can contribute and that are going to have seen a lot of key action. So I think Colorado, I think there was a real argument for them to have been number 1 coming into the year. I get the argument the other way though. I don't feel like, it's clearly Colorado. I think that it was closer to a coin flip between the two. To me, they feel like 1A and 1B. It's Colorado's going to have to deliver. They obviously don't have the success over a sustained period of time that North Carolina has. I mean, it's been 2013, the last time North Carolina wasn't in the semifinals. That's insane.
It's totally insane.
Look, I mean, they could win 3 straight, but they've already won 3 of the last 4. Like we cut off 2018 because it's not in a row, but they lost in the final in 2019. Like the run has been really remarkable. So Colorado's got some catching up to do to put up with that, but obviously their program has a long history of success, and they're pretty well connected to that success. So there's plenty for them to lean on, and they could break through this year. I mean, I really think it's possible.
I don't think it's out of the question that Danny Landisman wins Player of the Year. And you look at them last season. Colorado, they only lost 2 games. They went 30-2. They lost to Brown in the finals of Smoky Mountain by 1 goal in a crazy game that they could have won. And then they lost by 6 to UNC in semis. And UNC was just a buzzsaw at that tournament. I mean, everybody was picking Brown to win the championship that year, and nope, UNC shut it down early. And I don't know that this year's UNC team has quite that same level, but it's not going to be far off of it. And so it's going to require Colorado learning from that game. But it had been a while. I guess 2019, Colorado made semis, but it was kind of like a shock semis appearance. They had recently missed nationals entirely for the first time in like 20 years. And, now this team has been at that level. They've seen what it takes. They've had a lot of their top guys playing big roles in both college and club. This is the set of criteria that you need to have in place to go and win a championship, especially against a really strong program team like UNC. When Brown beat UNC in 2019. Go ahead, Keith.
It's funny that you started talking about 2019 because that's kind of where I was going to go, which is, I don't think that we have a great history of these big Titanic 1A, 1B, 1-2 matchups playing out over the course of the year. And maybe 2019, I'm trying to think back to what it was like, but it felt a little like that was what we established, that North Carolina and Brown seemed like the two best teams. They met in the final, and that was the way that it was. But we generally, I think that these don't tend to play out. But it's hard to think of another eventuality that feels more likely than Colorado UNC. Not to say that it's the most likely, but of the potential options, it is. It's not more than 50%, if that makes sense. But
yeah, I mean, I think you look at the next team in the list, it's Pittsburgh, and that's the team that feels like they could be a challenger. They were a strong team last year, but I think they're going to take steps forward this year. And as we'll hear when we talk to Henry in a little bit, I think there's some amount of learning to play in the big games that is required. And they get to semis last year and get crushed, but sometimes you got to get to the semis first before you can think about winning the semis. I mean, that's typically how it works. They've been there. Their top players have had those reps. They're coming off of the CCC win earlier in the fall. And I'm really excited to see what they bring to the table. I'm not convinced that they have the depth necessary to beat a team like a Colorado or a UNC, but they have Henry Ing, and that's pretty powerful.
Do you put Pittsburgh in the same tier with Colorado and UNC?
I don't. I'm not ready to do that.
Okay. So how big is this tier 2 then that Pittsburgh's in? Is it just Pittsburgh? Are they by themselves?
No, I think they're
how many
with
teams?
Brown.
How far do you go?
I don't know. They're with Brown, and I think that's it. I think that's tier 2. I think it's Pitt and Brown, and then you get to tier 3 with UVM.
That's kind of where I'm at too.
So you have the 4 teams in tiers 1 and 2. I just think those teams have showed a little bit of separation, and all of these teams have some question marks. I think Pitt probably the least because they lose the least. But, Randolph is gone from Brown. LSB is gone from UNC. Atkins is gone from Colorado. So they lose these sort of talismanic players. Pitt doesn't lose that. They still have Henry Ing for this season and next, by the way. Assuming he plays. We'll ask him about that. But he has a 6th-year option because of COVID. So going to be pretty interesting. But I think the focus for, big picture storyline for me is still about like which of these teams comes away with the 1 seed and looks like the favorite heading into nationals, UNC or Colorado.
Absolutely. And I don't know off the top of my head, I don't know the tournament schedules. You probably know better than I do where we might, if there's a chance we'll see both these teams. I think they both went to Smoky Mountain last year.
I expect them to both be at SMI and then probably Easterns.
Okay, so there's a chance we'll get some clashes between them along the way, which will go a long way to defining what our expectations are going to be as we approach the postseason.
How about this, Keith? 5 New England teams in the top 25 to start the year. Of course, the region was fantastic in 2022. Didn't get as many bids as it deserved because of the way that bids were allocated last year. No rankings involved. But could we see a similar story this year, but with the bids to go along with it? Could we see a 4-bid New England?
Yeah, I think last year we might have ended with 6 teams from New England in the top 25. So it got even bigger last year with the addition of McGill to the teams that are in there now. But yeah, this is a region that felt really stung by last year's circumstances. Every team that we talked to felt the same way. Like, this stinks that we only have a couple spots when we clearly have a bunch of really good teams. And so I'm sure that they're going to be happy to have the chance and be relieved to try and get up to the 3, 4. Is 5 bids possible? I think that's a stretch. The 5-bid region is very uncommon, but it's not unheard of. I do think that 3 or 4 is the most likely outcome for this group of teams. I just think they look really solid on paper. I think Brown and Vermont, obviously we talked about them as tier 2, 3 teams. Like these are teams that we expect to be elite, but you go down the list. I think UMass could really have a bounce back year, but we've said that before and been wrong. So yeah, UMass going to be a really interesting team to watch. Northeastern, Tufts, McGill, they were all in the mix last year, and I think they all could be again. I think that all 3 of those teams will be competitive with top level teams this year. I'm actually really like Tufts. But competing for bids is going to be tough. Those teams feel like they're going to be around the margin. So really, those might be the teams to pay attention to to when you're talking about the New England bid conversation.
I'm fascinated to see who comes out at the top here. I mean, Orion Cable leaving UMass is a hit to that team, but they were super impressive without him last year. I remember they went to warm up and he wasn't there and they looked really good. And then they left early. Shout out, by the way, to Artie, who recognized me in the gym in New York City. He was home for the holidays, and he is a sophomore at UMass. And he said that, he feels pretty confident about the team going into this season. So shout out to Artie for getting his offseason workouts in. I think that they probably don't have quite the upside that UVM does, but I wouldn't be shocked if they came out as the top ranked team out of that region going into regionals again.
It's possible. I think that of the teams outside of UVM and Brown, they feel like the team with the best shot at taking a step forward. Like, even though I like Tufts, and I think Northeastern is probably going to be better than some people expect, I don't know if they have that kind of ceiling in them. While I do think that UMass has some of that room for growth, despite the loss of Cable, which would really be kind of a remarkable turn of events for them. But I do think that they had a talented team that's returning a lot, so they're going to get better on that front, like in the kind of like rising tide sort of way. But this UMass team does not have a lot of that top level experience. Like we've been kind of waiting for this team to return to form after what we saw from them. They won the region 3 years in a row from 2015 to 2017. And then lost in the final and made nationals in 2018. And since then, crickets. Even though every year we get excited about them. The talent level has been there. The infrastructure has felt like it's been there. But the team is not. When it's come down to regionals, they have not been able to deliver. And I'm sure that is stuck in the craw of these UMass guys. Although at this point, it's a whole generation ago. There are probably not many people left from those teams that were expected to make nationals. So I got to imagine it's really burning for them that they want to get back to nationals and bring Zudis back to prominence.
How about Carleton? I mean, are we going to see this team get back to nationals? Such an interesting program, has won a national championship in the last 10 years, but has also missed nationals multiple times. Very strange. They do pick up some huge recruits per usual. And, do they have the opportunity to finally be the team that ends up coming out on top of Wisconsin to knock Wisconsin out of a national spot, which has not happened for a very long time. That's the number one streak in college ultimate, Wisconsin going to nationals. But Carleton's the fancy recruit team. Why are they not winning? Is this a year they bounce back, or are we going to see them miss nationals again?
Well, it feels like they're either the best team in North Central or they don't make nationals.
That's crazy.
They have alternated with Minnesota winning the North Central for 7 straight seasons. Like it's one of those two. And before that, it was like basically all Wisconsin. But now it's just one of those two. And then Carleton, when they don't win the region, usually doesn't make it. They made it once, I think, when they didn't win the region. So I don't know what's going on with Carleton. This team is a mystery. I think in a lot of ways, I link them with UMass. These two programs always feel like they have so much talent. We get excited for them during the season. Preseason, hype comes from both these teams. They recruit really well. They're these associated ultimate programs, and yet it feels like there's this high level of inconsistency with how they perform at the end of the year. So look, we're going to look at Carleton on paper and get excited again. The addition of Declan Miller is huge. Absolutely massive. This is, I think, somebody who's I wouldn't bet on him to make All-American this year. But I think he's that level of talent. I think he's that good.
He's definitely an instant starter, like difference maker.
Yeah, I mean, he might be the best player on the team. Like, I don't think that that's a huge limb to go out on. But I think that they're going to have some depth too. I do think that North Central is going to be competitive. We think Minnesota's going to be good. We don't have Carleton ahead of Minnesota in the power rankings, and I personally wouldn't put them ahead of Minnesota right now. But it wouldn't surprise me if Carleton ends up being the best team in the North Central again.
Wisconsin lurking down at number 24 right now. So interesting. We'll talk more about North Central in our sub bonus. What about Georgia? I mean, we're going to see this team stick around. They got to the finals in the Winter College Nationals A lot of buzz going into the last season because they basically brought everybody back, and then they just weren't quite as impressive in 2022. They lose Hayden Austin-Knabb, who was their best player, but they still have a lot of really talented guys on the roster, and they've got some U24 spots locked up as well. Is it just the one? Aiden Downey. Oh, no, Adam Miller.
Adam Miller as well.
So still plenty of talent there, but is this a championship contender or just top of the Southeast?
Well, I've gotten Georgia wrong plenty, so I'm probably not the person to ask. But I'm curious to see how this team ends up performing. I do think that they feel like a team that's good enough to play quarterfinals and maybe win their way into semifinals, but I'm not quite sure I see a championship contender. Obviously, last season was disappointing, and I don't know how they're going to operate without Hayden Austin-Knabb. What is going to be the point of attack for this team? Like Aiden Downey and Adam Miller are both talented players. Can one of them rise up to kind of be that guy? Can they do it by committee, which they showed some ability to do during their strongest moments? But I don't know if I see it. Like, who's going to step up and be the big playmaker for this team? Maybe it is Downey. Maybe Downey, after a couple of years of club, he had a very strong club season with Chain Lightning. Maybe he's ready for that. Adam Miller's, that's just not what he does, I don't think. He's a D-line grinder. He's your quarterback but he's not necessarily like hey, let's open this possession by ISOing this guy and let him take over this point. Like that's not really Adam Miller's game, I don't think. And he's a great leader for that team. So maybe he can help engender that kind of success from his teammates. But I think that's where he shines. And I'll be curious to see what the recipe looks like for Georgia as they move through the season.
And then finally, I guess I want to talk about player of the year. Like, who's in the mix? We've already mentioned a couple names. Henry Ing, probably the front runner. You've got Landesman in Colorado. I think Jacques Nissen at Brown. Who else do you think is going to be in that conversation early, Keith?
It feels a little bit open after that, which is why I'm high on Henry Ing. You look at a lot of the players who were the top players from last year's campaigns, and a lot of them are gone. Alex Atkins gone, JR gone, Andrew Roy gone, KJ Koo gone, Cole Jurek gone. Like there's a vacuum, and we're gonna have to see some talented players step up to fill it. One of the players remaining, Ben Dameron from North Carolina. North Carolina's pretty deep, so will Dameron stand out from the Singletons and the Rutledge Smiths of the team? That part remains to be seen. But that'll be that effect will happen, I think, with UNC, with Vermont, who also doesn't seem to be driven by one single player. Johnny Sickles, Turner Allen, those are great players. I think they could put some people on All-American, but I'm not quite sure if they're going to have that one standout guy. So you start to go down the list and you start to look at, could someone like Calvin Brown from Cal Poly SLO, or could they have a breakout? I mean, they have some players who are very strong on that team who are coming off good club seasons. Could somebody break out on that team and really have a big year? Paul Krennic, we heard all the hype in the offseason about him in Minnesota. We have not mentioned Dylan Hawkins, by the way, speaking of people who got hype. He's on UNC now, and apparently he's pretty good. Maybe he'll be their player of the year guy. I don't know. Maybe he is that. I
mean, he's got revenge tour time going, right?
I mean, against the U24 sub? Yeah. I mean, maybe they're going to be like, ride the hate, buddy. I'm sure if he walks away with a ring, it's going to help put a
salve the wound.
Yeah. So you start to get into these kind of like teams that we don't really feel like are semifinalist caliber, and it's pretty hard to win player of the year on those types of squads. Like, you have to be really defining. Could someone like someone on Texas or Washington, like a Tony Vanieri, be that guy? Could who am I? Why Kelman on UMass? I don't know. Like could Riley Kirkman Davis return to the form from what we've seen from him from UCLA? They're a middle of the pack team, but maybe they end up being a lot better. Maybe they end up being the Cal of this year, and he plays his way on the same way we saw Andrew Roy do. Those are the kind of players who maybe you can keep an eye on.
Don't forget about Calvin Brown coming back.
Yeah.
Playing for SLO. Certainly has the talent to win a pody. Should be fun. Let's move over to the women's division. And we got to go right back up to the top. UNC, Colorado. Hello. Same two teams, same kind of story. UNC going for the three-peat. Colorado trying to challenge after coming up short in 2022. Very similar overall storylines to the men's division.
I have not looked through our history to see if this has ever happened before, but like, I mean, people are talking about the same two teams at the top, the same two programs at the top, and it's the same formula. You know, we're talking about, okay, can this team repeat? Can this other team that they beat at nationals be the challenger after a tremendous club season in which some of their representatives won a club title in surprising fashion? Like, I mean, it is crazy how similar the top line story is for each division. But here, UNC is bringing back their best players. So the Liam Strauss-Bose is back. Dawn Colton as the analog, the reigning player of the year, she's back. Alex Barnett, Ellie Youngs, they're back. So
is it more likely that UNC goes undefeated again or that Colorado wins nationals? I mean,
oh my gosh.
Like this UNC team, I mean, I picked Colorado, but I think I'm going out on a limb there, especially when you look at everybody that's coming back. Grace Connerly, Ellie Youngst, Alex Barnett, Teresa Yu. Like all of the players are back. They went 38-0 last year, Keith. They just destroyed everybody at Carolina Kickoff. We'll talk a little bit about that more in a bit, but I mean, there are not a lot of teams that are even going to be able to be on the same field with UNC this year.
Yeah, but we saw Colorado push them multiple times last year, and Colorado brings back a lot of the talent from last season. They're getting some reinforcements back. They maybe even recruit better than UNC somehow. I mean, they have a player who was a rookie last year nobody was talking about, and she just made U24s. She's probably like 20 years old. Emma Williamson. So, they had another player who was just played U20s, Abby Gillick. So they have young talent coming up in this team as well. They're returning a lot of their top players. So Colorado makes a great foil for UNC. This again, there are plenty of good challengers, but this feels like a 1A, 1B to me.
I mean, yeah. I mean, you look at this team, right? Stacey Gaskill, Cleo Phillips, like a top tier to match UNC's top players. Mm-hmm. Bailey Shigley is back off of IR. They will not get Sky Fernandez, however. Everybody was expecting Sky Fernandez to come back, but apparently she's not playing Frisbee anymore. She's out. I don't know what the story behind that is, but the team told us that. So she's not going to be playing this year, which is a loss, but they didn't have her last year and they almost won.
Right.
Saulostra, who was a linchpin piece on the offense for Molly Brown at Nationals, this player that nobody knew coming into the tournament, and they kept doubling other players and like leaving her open, and she delivered time and time again. She's on this roster. So I just feel like they have what it takes. And Stacey Gaskill is truly the key, because Stacey Gaskill has a level of athleticism that maybe only Dawn Colton can match across these two teams. And she's such a great puller that it gives their defense real opportunities to get breaks beyond a normal amount. And I don't know if they have quite enough offensive horsepower, but I can't bet against them. I mean, that's why I picked them, because I think that they have the motivation, they have the talent, and they just have some players who are, Khalil Phillips too, so good, like could win Pody. Yeah,
I mean, they have multiple players who you could envision as Pody, which is basically something you can only say for UNC as well. So that just gives you a sense. But I think that I was pretty impressed with the development down the roster for them last year. And I think that's going to mean that their role players are better than people expect, but also goes to show what this coaching staff can do. So I think you're going to continue to see them develop good athletic depth and figure out how to use it. I mean, they have a clear plan, and I think that kind of like clear vision from last year is going to carry over, and that's going to help them be successful.
I think another interesting story this year in the women's division is that we've got some more teams coming to the conversation for semifinals. Now, the top tier is clear enough. We've got those two teams in the top probably on their own, But I'm not going to rule out that we see the next 2 or 3 teams be in the conversation. The next 3 teams in the power rankings are Vermont, UBC, and UC Santa Barbara. UBC just went to Bellingham Invite and slaughtered everybody. I mean, crushing. I mean, and like half of this team is the U24 team for Canada. They are extremely good. They basically lose nobody. And they also pushed UNC last year, Keith, in the quarterfinals. That was a very compelling game. With all of those players coming back and that continuity, it is not out of the question that this UBC. In fact, I would go so far as to say I think at this point I see UBC as the number 3 team. I think it's fine they came in as number 4 behind Vermont, but they impressed me enough last year, and with the continuity that they have this year, this is going to be scary unit.
I'm with you. If it's on me right now, I think I'd probably put them at 3, and they feel like a very fierce competitor. I think that by the end of the year, like, would it shock me if they are the number 2 or number 1 team? Would it shock me if they're the number 1 seed going to nationals? I don't think so. I mean, I think this team is that good. Like you said, they return pretty much everybody. They're going to be in a great position because of all those U24 players are going to be like in great form. They are deep. You know, after the U24 players, they got other U20 players. You know what I mean? Like, they do this kind of quiet recruiting thing that us in the States don't know about because we don't know Canadian Youth Ultimate, but they're just constantly bringing in players who are like coming from the Team Canada pipeline. It's just like consistent for them. So, you know, the depth for the team is always good. They're going to be well coached. And we're seeing them get an early start, which we don't always, you know, they basically just played the series last year. So I think that's going to benefit them as well. I'm really high on UBC, and the Bellingham invites, you know, Bellingham's unsanctioned for those who don't know. I kind of consider it like Northwest CCC. Obviously it's a little bit closer to the season, so I think you can probably infer a little bit more from it. And it was very rainy, as from my understanding, this year and every other year that's ever happened. So, you know, put your asterisk next to it. It's preseason for them. But it can't be a bad sign that you're going out and you're blowing out a team like Washington, who before I'm not going to rule them out, but unlike the men's division where we were like, okay, this tier is like 2 teams deep. I think this tier behind Colorado UNC, you could make a compelling argument to me all the way out to the number 9 team in our power rankings, to Stanford. I think you could also go all the way out to 7. I just can't count out an Abby Hecko led Washington team. I just can't do it. She's too good by herself, but they're also good around her. So I think I could probably go down to 7. Carleton, Stanford, I'm a little unsure about whether or not to put them in that tier 2. But man, that's a big tier of teams that are good enough to make semifinals.
You think UC Santa Barbara can get back to semis?
I think it's possible. I mean, why any of these other teams over them? You know, they obviously lose some key pieces, but you know, they bring back Devin Quinn, Julia Hasbrook, Vienna Lee, and like that is an offense unto itself. Like those 3 players are going to go out there and they're going to get you points. They're going to get you breaks. And we know that this team has benefited from the increasingly strong youth development in California. And a lot of those players are ending up at UC Santa Barbara. But we also have seen that this team is good at developing a system around their players who have like all the experience and the primary throwing skills. Like we know that they can do that and design something that makes sense and lets those players be productive. And they've done that for years. So I don't see any reason that they can't squeeze a ton of production out of the way that their roster is going to shape up. And you know, I think that after the consistency we've seen from the program, we should continue to expect them to be a top level team given the talent that they're returning.
It's going to be fascinating. We've got a lot of really good rookies coming in. And I mean, we talk about this every year at this point. You're starting to see rookies come into teams and be the best player on a regular basis. Who do you look at this year as candidates to be that for their team, or at least be a very important starter?
Well, I mean, if you're going to talk about this rookie class, you got to talk about Trout Waybright at Oregon. You know, coming from that downpour South Eugene grouping, just in absolutely remarkable player, gets a ton done, super productive, plays with a ton of pace, really fast, can be dynamic with the disc as well. So I think Trout Waybright is going to be a front runner for Rookie of the Year and could be the best on an Oregon team that I think is maybe being underestimated outside of the recruiting class, but is going to get a lot out of adding those players into the roster, and that could boost them up. I mean, we have them at number 11 as a team that is coming from a bit outside of that. Vermont and UBC are going to have strong rookies. Vermont's got Caroline Stone, who they're going to try and integrate among others on their roster. So you can start to look around and see how these top rookie players are going to figure into some of these big time programs. We already saw at CCC in the women's division, what that could look like for Georgia, who has to replace Marie Privier. And instead they just get they get a new slinger, which is really a remarkable thing to just like be able to port a player into the role of a player like Marie Privier. That just doesn't happen that way. But they got Quincy Booth coming in, and Booth is a great player to replace Privier if you're going to try and find somebody as a rookie. But because of the size of the role that Quincy Booth could have, somebody who I think there's a chance that she'll be the best player on Georgia. Wouldn't necessarily bet on it, but huge thrower, really tall player, gets blocks, tough to deal with, matchup trouble. So someone who I think could be really prominent for a Georgia team that we've seen stay around the level for years now.
And on the other side of the age spectrum of college, we'll look at the Player of the Year race. Not that I would rule out the possibility of a freshman winning a Player of the Year. Has it ever happened? I don't think it's ever happened. We've come close.
We have seen it. We've not seen them win Player of the Year. Sorry, we've seen freshmen make All-American. I don't think we've ever seen a freshman really dig into the Player of the Year conversation before.
But let's talk about that Player of the Year conversation, because we have multiple previous winners in the division this year, which is
one of my favorite
happened.
Storylines.
And we have other players who have yet to win who definitely could, like Stacey Gaskill. Where do you see? I mean, I feel like this is almost as interesting as the competition for which team is going to win the championship. I mean, it's going to be an unbelievable year. That the talent level is so high here in 2023.
Yeah, I mean, you have. It's easy to forget, but the second runner-up for the podium last year was Alex Barnett. So you have three players who have been on the podium in Abby Hecko, the winner in 2021, who was Don Colton was the runner-up in 2021, and then the winner in 2022. Then you have Alex Barnett as well. So you're already starting with a lot of top talent returning. Then you look at Stacey Gaskill. She won Defensive Player of the Year. She was a All-American first teamer. Same was true for Khalil Phillips, Madison Ong. They're all back. Literally two players from last year's All-American first team are gone. Ava Hanna and Carly Campana. So you're starting off with a great place. Then you look at the All-American second team. Abby Hecko, she's back. Ellie Youngst, she's back. Kennedy McCarthy, she's back. Hazel Ostrowski, she's back. Julia Hasbrook, she's back.
Crazy.
Only two more players lost. So of your 14 players from the All-American team last year, 10 are back. That's going to make for a really interesting conversation of who's going to be at the top. Some of these players are on the same team, and so they could compete with each other. But obviously, given the awards that they've garnered thus far, they can stand out in that group. I think you look at Carleton, someone like Tori Gray could step up into that role and become kind of the figurehead for that team. We've got high estimations for Stanford, so you could look at someone like Hannah Huddleston, Abby Schiltz at UC San Diego. These are players who were not on those All-American teams who could break into that conversation. There's a lot of talent. Mika Kurahashi at UBC, coming off of the way that she played in this past club season and at Worlds, like there's just so many great players in the women's division. The talent level is just extremely high this year.
All right. Well, lots to get excited for. We're going to talk about the upcoming weekend. We've got Carolina Kickoff and even more importantly, Santa Barbara Invite. Very strong field this year out west and a lot more. But first, an interview with Henry Ing, the star from Pittsburgh, as Pitt tries to get back on top of the college division for the first time in about 10 years, right? It was the last time they won was 13 or 14. So exciting. We'll talk to Henry in just a moment. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to Deep Look. Joining us now on Deep Look is University of Pittsburgh fifth year Henry Ing. Henry, welcome to the program.
Hi, guys.
Thanks so much for being here. It's an exciting season coming up for Pitt, I believe we have never had you on the show, and it feels like it's about time that we have you on. You had a great season last year. Pittsburgh making it all the way to the semifinals, where you lost to Brown, and very high expectations, I would imagine, this year. How are you feeling about Pitt 2023?
I'm feeling really good, I would say. I think we've got a really good squad this year. I mean, I feel confident every year, but we had a good fall. It's nice. It was nice to have like a normal fall with normal tryouts and everything. Have like a CCC, which is always a lot of fun. And we did well this year, so that was nice. Kind of gives us some confidence going into the spring, but we didn't really. We still have a lot of room to go, but it was nice to start out with a win for sure.
You mentioned that kind of return to normalcy. What's that been like for Pittsburgh? Like, how different has it felt? You probably have people on the team who've never even gone through a traditional college season. What's the adjustment been like?
Yeah, I mean, so I think, I want to say like our seniors are the last people that had like a normal tryout process, which is really weird. But like last year, since we had to get ready for fall nationals, we like did a very rushed process and like tried to really speed things up so we could just start practicing. And this year was really nice to, we got to do all of like the fun things that we usually do in the fall, which is like our 4v4 tournament, which is like an open thing where we like make teams and everyone gets to play, and it's like a lot of fun. But we kind of had to skip that last year, and so it was just nice to do all of like the fun stuff we do like in the beginning of the year, and then have like a little less strenuous schedule than like last year we did with having fall nationals and everything.
What'd you learn at CCC this year? We're kind of, as you're mentioning, we're back to a normal schedule, right? CCC, you guys are going to warm up. I know you skipped it last year, just went to SMI. So what did you learn at CCC? And coming away with a win, what does that mean for you heading into this spring season?
I mean, it doesn't really mean much, to be honest. Like, it's a fall tournament, and we went to try to win, but like it is the fall. Teams aren't really at the place where they're going to be in the spring. And it was more just like a reassurance that what we were doing was headed in the right direction. And like it was nice. It was definitely nice to win, and we wanted to win, but I don't think we're too like overconfident about anything, because things are going to change, teams are going to get better, and we did lose a game too, so that we need to fix that too.
I want to take us way back, because like this time last season you're coming off of nationals that I imagine was disappointing, and I know I was definitely surprised by the way the team performed. Looking back at that, what do you think went wrong for Pitt back in 2 nationals ago now, which wasn't actually that long ago, but all the way back then? What do you think went wrong?
It was kind of just nothing was clicking. Going into the tournament, we felt good. We felt like we had a good team, and we just, things just were not clicking. I think part of it, I mean, everyone had to deal with it, but like we definitely were a little out of sorts with the amount of time we had. But I mean, everyone had to deal with that, so it's not really a reason why we should be so much different. But I honestly don't really know. Nothing was working.
It's weird when that happens.
Yeah.
I feel like most players and teams have experienced that, but you normally don't experience it nationals, luckily. So let's go back to last season. You all had a really good year. I think your losses came to the top teams. You got a great start at nationals. You come out of the gate 3-0 to start. You blow out pretty much everybody. I mean, you beat Georgia, a team that was looked at as a potential championship team early in the season, 15-10. You crush Cal, and then you lose again to Brown. What do you take away from that? Because that Brown team had been a problem for you all season. What is it that they were doing that gave you all trouble? And how do you come into this season to try to, combat that?
Yeah. So I think, maybe in our like earlier season losses, they were playing some defensive sets that gave us some trouble. Where it felt like kind of our offense was, struggling to put things together. And then also just like they were, their offense is, hard to break, hard to stop. It felt like we played good defense, and I think they were able to complete their stuff. But I think at nationals we had kind of figured out some of their sets, but they did a good job of kind of adjusting, and then I think we didn't do as good of a job of adjusting. So.
What makes you excited about what this year's Pitt team can do? What about this year's team makes you feel like, okay, we have a great squad and a great chance to be successful this year?
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone's just kind of taken a step up on the team, which is really exciting. Like guys that had big roles last year are even better this year. Guys that maybe had smaller roles are stepping into bigger roles and doing a great job. We have a great rookie class that I'm really excited about. But yeah, I think, I'm just excited to get the season started, I guess, with the team.
How would you assess your club season last year playing with AMP?
It was good. It was definitely interesting because I broke my hand at some point at US Open. So I was kind of out from then until regionals. So I kind of missed a big chunk of it, but I mean, I had a blast. That team's a lot of fun. Obviously we didn't get the results we wanted, but that was a great team, a lot of talented players on it, and it was a blast.
Was there something in particular that drew you to playing with AMP or playing in the mixed division? Charlie and I have been talking about, a little bit about people making their choices for teams for U24s, but also, it's not something that we've seen a lot of Pittsburgh men's players do in the past. So what drew you to playing in the mixed division and playing with AMP?
So, I mean, it wasn't so much as the mixed division. Like it doesn't, I like playing in both divisions. I don't really mind. I don't really have like a preference, but, so I'm from the Philadelphia area, and kind of when I was like in high school, Michael was a part of the team, and they had these like open scrimmages, like where different people from the community could come, and they weren't like their practices. So I would always kind of tag along. And that was a big reason why I like was able to improve, is because like I'd go to those things and just like get beat really bad. And so like I kind of was around the team for a while and had been hoping to play for the team for a while. And then through various things just was not able to, like injury and COVID. So, this past year, I guess I was, I had the opportunity, and like I knew I wanted to because I've been trying to for a long time.
What was U24 tryouts like?
It was a lot of fun, and it was hard. There are like obviously a ton of really good players there, so like everything is very tough. But it is a lot of fun. Like you get to meet new people, play with new people, and then honestly, one of my favorite parts is playing with or against, or playing with players you usually like play against a lot. So it's just a really fun experience, and it's very like challenging. So it was a lot of fun.
Which players impressed you particularly?
I mean, honestly, everyone was really good. Like I don't know if anyone like everyone, like this talent level up and down was just like really high. So like it felt like every time you were on the field, like matching up with somebody or like playing with somebody, like you were just kind of like, oh geez, like this is a lot.
Is there anybody in your career that you felt like you have kind of a not necessarily rivalry with, but somebody who you get pushed by a lot, somebody that you're challenged by individually?
Um, I mean, like good players on good teams are always going to give you a challenge. Like I wouldn't say there's anyone that you don't really play against a group enough to really develop that. I'd say like the most fun I have like in that type of area is like playing against people I've played with in either like club or like youth club. So like when you see them again, especially like when you see them like multiple times, it's a lot of fun to go up against them.
Who's Pitt's biggest rival right now?
Our biggest rival?
Yeah, in your mind.
I don't really think we have a rival. Like, not that we're unrivaled, but like I don't think there's a team that we like necessarily like. Oh, like yeah, this team. Like, I think we kind of try to approach it, and it doesn't really matter who it is.
The Wilmington era is dead, Keith.
Yeah, I mean, I remember the days of like it felt like Pitt had like 3 rivals, but now, the well is dried up. Maybe if I did, I guess I'd still say like I don't know, maybe Ohio State, just because you have to go there often. Like,
I mean, I guess
at the end of the region, but like
we usually have to try and beat them if we want to make the nationals. So we've had some cool games against them. I mean, they beat us my freshman year in like a tight game, I think on Universe, and then we beat them on Universe last fall in like a crazy. That was when it was like snowing, and so that's usually a fun game.
You've had the chance to play at a pretty high level over the past few seasons, whether it's been in all these different environments, under 20s, college, club. Is this kind of how you saw your career going when you were a young player? Like, did you expect to be in a position where it's like, okay, 5 years from now, I'm going to be one of the leaders on Pitt. People are going to think of me as a really strong player. I'm going to be able to be on the U.S. national team. Like, is this how you saw it all playing out, or does it feel like a surprise to you?
I mean, I definitely think it was a bit of a like surprise. Like, obviously, like stepping into playing, like as I got older in like high school, I like wanted to get better and better. And so like I was like, I'll push myself, I'll like do whatever, like I'll go try and find higher level playing, like I did trying to play with AMP when I would go to there, or like youth club. And I think just like I kept wanting to reach like being better and better and reach like the next level. And so like you obviously like want to, but it's just a question of like whether you will or not. So I think it was just like, I'll do it, I'll like put in the work, and we'll see how things turn out. But yeah.
All right. So in the preseason power rankings, we've got Pitt at number 3 behind UNC and Colorado, and ahead of Brown and Vermont. How do you feel about that? Does that sound about right? And, does this Pitt team do you think this has championship skill this year?
I have no doubt that we do, but you feel confident most years, or every year, honestly. I mean, every year I've been on the team, like every season, it's like you feel confident. And this year's no different, but we'll see. I mean, we're obviously going to be ready to go. We're going to prepare hard and, be ready to perform. But I mean, that, I don't know. We'll have to see how it goes. I mean, we played UNC in Vermont at CCC. We haven't played Colorado in a long time. And then we obviously haven't played Brown this year, but we'll see how things shake out, I guess.
All right, here's probably the hardest question I think you're going to have to answer. Jump ball goes up, and it's you versus Michael. Who's coming out?
I don't know.
Yes, you do. You know.
No. Michael's really good in the air. I don't know.
He is.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I saw a tweet of yours though that had a little stick figure drawing of you skying Michael.
Oh yeah. That was a recreation of real events. So.
Okay, so there you go.
So the record shows.
Yeah.
So record shows Younger Brothers got the advantage, but who knows?
You have the receipts, I guess.
What's it going to take? I mean, it's been a while since Pittsburgh's won a national championship, and obviously there's a lot of history with the program and the building of it up to a national level. Those couple wins, in those early 2010s, middle 2010s era, And then it's been a really good team, but hasn't gotten to that top level again. What is the difference going to be that you need to find in order to win here in 2023?
I honestly think getting just more experience playing in like high pressure games. I think that was an issue maybe like last year, for example, in the semis, like a lot of people hadn't really played deep into nationals before. Like our fifth years at that point made the finals their freshman year. But like, obviously that was a long time ago, and not to say like we weren't ready, but I think that might have helped with things like making adjustments in game and things like that. So I think getting more experience like that will be helpful.
Awesome. Well, we wish you the best of luck. And I guess I want to ask you now, are you planning to play again in 2024? Because you will be eligible under the USAU sort of extended COVID rules.
Yeah, I guess so, yeah.
All right. So 2 more years. Exciting stuff. Henry, thanks so much, and good luck this season.
Thanks, guys.
Henry Ng with us here on Deep Look. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Deep Look. Last weekend, we had the Carolina Kickoff for the women's and non-binary division. Unsurprisingly, Keith, UNC dominant on their way to a win. Their scores 14-2, 13-5, 15-1, 14-1, 15-1, 14-2 in the final. Who do you think scored the 5 goals against them? Who did the best against UNC? 13-5 final score.
Who are my options? Who's in the field?
You got NC State. You've got App State, Temple, Duke, South Carolina, UNCB, and down at the 8 seed, the Triangle Tourists, the high school team.
Who they play first, Charlie? Who's their first game?
Their first matchup was against Duke.
All right, I think it's either Duke or Triangle Tourists then.
The correct answer is the Triangle Tourists, who
Shocker.
went on to finish in 3rd place. They lost to only UNC and NC State. They win the 3rd place game 9-5 over South Carolina. Incredibly impressive. They continue to do that kind of thing. UNC beats NC State in the final. Those are the top 2 seeds. 14-2 final score. But I think NC State's pretty good, Keith. Just UNC's on another level.
Yeah, they can make a team that like still could make nationals look like that. Like that's just what we're talking about here. And unlike most teams coming into the season, like they basically have a lineup that could go out at club nationals and compete with people to start. Like most teams are working on the rookies. They're still figuring things out. Hey, we're going to run this offense for the first time. Not UNC. Not UNC. So they can clown on people. Like the second best team in the Atlantic Coast could be in this field still and not even come close to UNC.
It may be NC State. It's very possible.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
They went 5-1. They beat South Carolina 12-10. They crushed everybody else, and they just got crushed by UNC. But there's just levels to it.
Not a great start for anybody holding App State stock from last year.
No. We will have the men's division of the Carolina Kickoff this coming weekend. UNC and NC State are the top 2 seeds over there as well. Duke the 3 seed, South Carolina the 4 seed. Not as many out of region teams this year at Kickoff. It's it become a little bit more of a local tournament. Carleton Chop, the D3 team, is going to be there, so that's kind of cool. They will play Richmond in Pool B, so a nice little D3 matchup to start the year. UNC, of course, Keith, will be the heavy favorites here. Let me give you a line. We're not going to make official picks for this tournament, but UNC -5.5 in the final against whoever they play. I'll give you the field.
-5.5.
Yeah.
I'll take the other side of that. I'll take the field to cover.
Field plus 5.5 in the finals.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
I think NC State and yeah, I just wrote an article about teams that aren't in the top 25 that I think could be good this year, teams to watch, and I had Duke on that list. If they make it, like, could they come within 5 of UNC? Sure, I think so.
All right, we will see what happens. Any other thoughts on the kickoffs, Keith?
Yeah, it'll be fun to see where some of these kind of like we're going to talk about region specifically in our sub bonus, but down the line from UNC and NC State are ranked teams who I think are firmly expected to be competing for national spots or much better than that. Getting a sense of where the rest of the AC is at. Obviously there's some key cast members missing from this field, very Carolina focused, but how does South Carolina look? How does Duke look this year? How does UNC Charlotte look? Do they still have Ben Simmons? They still have Ben Simmons. This is people from North Carolina area swear by this guy. This is the best guy people don't talk about, or the best player on a bad team in the country or whatever. And they had some moments last year. So if he's back, and he is, could this team be a little scarier than people think? Maybe. And Penn State. I think Penn State, they actually looked okay in the fall too. The OV, after Pittsburgh, feels like it's pretty open. Could Penn State have a good year? Could they have an up year? Could they challenge for like a second spot in nationals? We've seen that second spot in the OV somehow pop over to teams that you don't expect. So I'll keep an eye on some of these regional level things. Of course, if you're D3 focused, you got both Richmond and Chop in the field.
All right, so we turn our attention now over to the West Coast, opposite side of the country, for the Santa Barbara Invite. Very strong tournament this year. 20 teams in the men's division. Currently 15 listed in the women's division. Haven't been able to fill that last spot, so could prove for some scheduling irregularities. Your top seeds in the men's division: BYU, Cal Poly SLO, Cal, Washington, Utah State, Oregon, UBC, and UCLA. On the women's side, Carleton making the trip out west. They're the 1 seed. UCSB, the 2 seed. Stanford, the 3. UC San Diego, UC Davis, BYU, UCLA, and Cal. So obviously a lot of California teams, but a couple of teams making the trek out west. And this should be a really interesting tournament to kind of see where things stand. How good are these BYU teams this year? I know they don't really factor into the postseason picture, but I've really enjoyed watching the development of the men's team, which is, I think, going to take a pretty big step back this year. They lose some really key pieces, but the women's team could be a top 10 program here in 2023.
Yeah, and I think that they're going to be both pretty good. Not picking them to necessarily like take over this tournament or anything, but yeah, I do think that we're going to see two strong showings from them. It's kind of a small roster for the women's side, but really talented. So they have some great rookies coming in, and so they may have a better weekend than the men's side. The women's side may actually be the stronger performer at this tournament. That would not surprise me.
No, me neither. So Keith, before we talk about our picks and our new pick structure for 2023, are there some teams further down that you're interested in keeping an eye on, that you don't think are going to win the tournament, but that you're compelled by and want to see what you're going to get from them here this year?
Charlie, this is my bread and butter, baby. We're it's preseason time, so there are plenty of teams down the line that I am excited to see what they're about, to get their early season started and get a sense of what they're going to look like this year. In the women's division, Wisconsin. Can they start to step up in the North Central? We've seen so much dominance from Carleton. I don't necessarily expect them to overtake Carleton, but they've got some good returners this year. Laura Coleman among those, Tess Berry. So I think that they could be strong. I think they could be a nationals level team this year, and somebody to keep an eye on in the North Central. And one of the few teams traveling. Always love to see some connectivity coming from outside of the area. Utah's all the way down to the number 14 seed. They are the second to last seed. I do not expect them to finish there with Carly Atwell back and hopefully healthy. I don't expect a ton of depth from them. Probably a lack of experience, but Carly Atwell is probably going to be one of like the 10 best players in the women's division at this tournament. So I think that they could do. They could have a nice run over the men's side. Again, referencing the article that I wrote, Case Western, they're 13 seed. They've got their top 2 players from last year back, Anil Driehuis and James Kennelly. I think that they could make some noise. Like it's going to be a little weird because they're in the pool with Brigham Young, so they're going to get pushed up. But if they go out there and beat Utah or even UCLA or give one of these teams a close game, like that would not surprise me at all. Or if we have to wait until the bracket to see them. UCSC, another team I think could do well. Santa Cruz, they return a lot of their top players from last year. So they're all the way down at the 9 seed. I would be probably surprised if they finish there. Oregon's not really bringing a full team. Utah State, who's seated above them in their pool, is missing some key players from last year. So I think that could actually be pretty hotly contested. I think I would pick UCSC to beat Utah State in pool play. So there's some interesting stuff going on here. And of course, we got to get hyped for Grand Canyon.
Grand Canyon?
Everybody loves Grand Canyon. I don't know what it is about this team. I don't know if it's the social media presence. They had like the sweet graphics and stuff. So you know what? I'm out here for it. I'm out here supporting Grand Canyon.
They get UBC, Victoria, UCSB, and SLO in pool play. I mean, maybe they can make the bracket.
I saw
rule it out.
I saw a little trash talk from UCSD on Twitter. I think their account was tweeting about the top 25 rankings. And there's some names I know on here. There's some players I know are good for UCSD, and it is not uncommon for us to count out some of the UC schools in the Southwest pecking order, and then by the end of the year they're at nationals. So maybe UCSD will show us something, but it's time to back it up.
Come out and prove it. All right, so we're going to do a new thing this year for picks. First of all, in our Discord for Full & Plus subscribers, we're going to have picks up available before tournaments, and subscribers are going to make their picks. We're going to give the finalists and winners in aggregate from the subscriber votes to the subscribers to compete against me and Keith. So wisdom of the crowd going to play out. So now each week we will tally up the points and keep track of how all that works. Point system: 1 point for a finalist, 3 points for a winner. You like it, Keith?
Yeah, I'm down with that.
And we will keep track over the course of the season. If the subscribers beat me and Keith, there will be a randomly selected. I think we'll probably do. I'm going to leave the prize TBD because I have a pretty fun idea, but I need to clear it with the lawyers first.
Oh no!
As if we have multiple lawyers, but we do have a lawyer who helps us out a little bit. But I actually have kind of a fun, like, bigger prize, because normally we send out a little, get some gear, some stickers, some stuff like that. It's fun, but I am thinking about potentially an all expenses paid trip.
Oh, whoa. Can I get in on this? Can I win this?
Keith, you already get all expenses paid trips all the time.
I do. In fact, I have to, to go work. What if I just want a all expenses paid trip to go chill?
So we're thinking about kind of like doing a little bit of a splash here, but I don't want to promise that that's going to be the thing, because I want to make sure that it's all kosher, and that, we get the tax stuff right. There's like some actual regulatory things we have to worry about, but that is my plan. And if it's not that, it's going to be something really cool. So I think get yourself a subscription. Go ahead.
I was going to propose you're responsible to get yourself to New York City, I guess. Although now that Charlie's up the ante, maybe you're not. Maybe we'll get you there. But Charlie and I will home cook a meal for like 3 to 4 winners or whatever, and they're plus ones. And you can come, and Charlie is a great cook, and I'm
certainly do that. And, we can certainly do that.
We'll host it in New York. I'll come down, and Charlie and I will go hard in the kitchen to present you a multi-course meal.
I think that's an excellent backup plan. And we're not kidding right now. Like, we're gonna do like a big prize. So you got it. Here's how you have to vote in order to be eligible. Okay. So you have to vote. You don't have to vote every single week, but you have to have voted at some point. We're gonna track all that, and you'll have to be a subscriber, obviously, in order to vote. And so hopefully, I wish everybody luck. And so if you're a Fuller Plus subscriber and you're not in the Discord, it's a great chance to get in right now. Make your picks. It should be fun. We'll keep track of it over the course of the season. We'll have we'll make a public link of some kind so you can keep idea of what the scores are throughout the course of the year. So without further ado, let's get to the picks. Let's get to the subscriber picks first. In the men's division, Keith, who do they have for the finalists and the winner?
All right, so the finalists in the men's division, we have number 2 seed Cal Poly SLO, and we have the number 4 seed University of Washington. Those are the 2 finalists. SLO with the lead overall. It's a little weird because the 1 seed BYU obviously can't play in the finals if they're on Sunday. So it's a little odd. They still got a couple picks. There's still some BYU backers out there hoping for a miracle, maybe a rescheduling. Maybe they get rained out on Sunday and they got to push it to Saturday. I don't know.
Okay, so they're going with SLO in Washington. I mean, I think those are the consensus favorites, and I assume they're taking SLO to win it all.
They are taking SLO to win it all. Really, they're like 2-1 over Washington.
Okay. So I also have SLO to win, but I am not going to take Washington. And I've gone back and forth about this. I am actually going to take the team that I expect to be the quote-unquote 1 seed coming out of pool play. Because it won't be BYU, because they will not advance to Sunday. I'm going to take the 8 overall seed, UCLA, who I expect to then beat Washington in the semifinals and make it to the final, where they will lose to SLO. UCLA, interesting team. Riley Kirkman-Davis is back. They have some really exciting freshmen, got a couple of U20 players. Loic Below, probably the most notable. And I just think that this UCLA team has been on the precipice of kind of making that leap. Whether they can get past Washington, I think it's a great early test for what they can be. But I'm taking UCLA, and I got SLO over them.
I love it. I thought really hard about doing the same thing. For me, I had SLO locked in, and then it came down to that other slot, and It was Washington, UCLA, and UBC, who is currently unranked, but I don't think that's going to last through the weekend. I think that those are, to me, the 4 teams I want to watch. Oregon, not bringing the full complement, missing a couple key players. Otherwise, I might be
at least according to Score Reporter, but they better fix that soon. Which is
not always accurate, but
you have to have your players rostered, folks. We got rankings again.
Oh my gosh, what if they do really well? They get disqualified, but who knows? They're missing a couple players I think are pretty notable for them. I still think that they'll be good, just not quite at that level. Man, I love that UCLA pick, but I'm going to go with the chalk here. I'm going to take SLO in Washington with SLO as the winner. So I'm with the subscribers. I think SLO looks really good.
Okay. On the women's side, the subscribers are taking Carleton and UCSB to make it to the final. Pretty strong picks there. No one else got more than 4 votes. The UC San Diego also the next most popular pick to win the tournament. The split vote for sure, but Carleton gets the nod over UCSB from the subscribers. And I gotta say, Keith, I'm gonna match them right on that. I'm taking Carleton and UCSB in the final, and Carleton, the number 1 seed, to get the win.
All understandable. I think you can ding Carleton for the travel a little bit, but not enough. Just the most experienced, I think, and most talented team in the field. I also have Carleton going into the final and taking the win, but I've got them over Stanford. I think both UCSB and Stanford are really the only 2 teams I'm considering at this point. Although I'll tell you what, Charlie, if they could play, I would take BYU to the final. I really would.
Wow.
I think there's maybe an outside shot for Davis as well. But yeah, to me, it was UCSB and Stanford. I think Stanford's one of the sneaky teams this year. They return so many of the top players from last year. We know what the coaching staff can do. When I saw them tweet about that they just worked on zone, like this past weekend or something like that. The zone's ready for. I was like, it's curtains. It's curtains for other teams because you know what Stanford does with the zone. That's probably the first of like 9 different zones they're going to run this year. UCSB, I originally was actually going to pick them, but while they do have a bunch of key players returning, they also have a lot of rookies. And I think that this early in the season, they're going to really keep their rotation pretty open. So I think that they are basically neck and neck with Stanford, but because of that was kind of the tilting factor for me. So I've got Stanford in the final and Carleton taking the win.
Okay, Stanford in the final. Very interesting. We'll see if they can take the step forward that you're expecting. I'm not sure. I'm not so sure. I think Stanford's going to be good. They're always good. They have the incredible coaching staff, incredible development, but I just don't know if I see quite enough talent on this team to get past UCSB. We're talking about the semifinalists from last year, Keith.
They were. I mean, look at how they ended up being better. I think than people expected last year.
It's true. It's true.
Look at the returners that they have. Esther Filipek, whose name has been popping up in Western Ultimate League and stuff like that. Alana Kamas, Macy Volbrecht, Amelia Farinas, obviously Hannah Huddleston, who I think is kind of be the figurehead for the team. But they have a lot of players back in, and that's not even mentioning Anna Fisher-Lopez. So yeah, they with all of those players back, knowing the system, able to teach the systems well, execute the systems, like I think that's a big advantage for a Stanford team that had a lot of turnover in years prior.
All right, that is going to do it for this edition of Deep Look. Thanks for tuning in. College season underway. Excited to get it going, and looking forward to some power rankings updates next week. And see you out there at Santa Barbara Invite, everybody.